Hello and welcome to this new episode of the ECR Local Talks, the format of the ECR group in the Committee of the Regions that aims to bring the voice of local and regional leaders to you, our listeners and followers. Today we are honored to have with us Mr. Juraj Droba, who is the ECR Group Vice President and President of Bratislava region in Slovakia. Mr. Droba, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start these ECR Local Talks by talking about the challenges that territories like the one that you manage, the metropolitan region of Bratislava, face every day. 5 years ago, your report on the challenges that metropolitan regions face was adopted by the Committee of the Regions.
Yes.
So what has changed since then and more has to be done?
When I look at 5 years back, I think that more representatives in Brussels now understand that the challenges and problems we are facing as metropolitan regions are also at certain level of seriousness and gravity. And I feel that our voices are more heard. We started from the situation where regions like mine were hitting approximately 180% of the European GDP average, practically disqualifying us from using any funds, even in the cohesion policy, to build up our regions. We went a long way since then, and I was putting a lot of emphasis on the measurements which are different from GDP. I was a big proponent of the so-called social progress index, which measures not only the actual financials but also the actual quality of living in our regions. What I want to say is that regions like Bratislava are facing a different type of challenges, but they are equally grave and serious as some of the catching up regions, for example. And secondly, being from Eastern Europe, you have to understand there is almost 40 years of an investment debt where, for example, the last schools built during the communist times in Bratislava region were built in the 70s. And now we are still working in those buildings and we have children in those buildings, so they are 50-year-old buildings. This is the money that nobody gives me to fix the schools. Therefore, although we look rich on the paper, in reality we are facing some very serious also financial challenges. For the rest of it, I can start mentioning the urban poverty, the problems with transportation, the problems with more citizens living in Bratislava than they are registered and pay taxes. This is all a big pressure on the social services, on the transportation, and on the quality of life. And we also face, of course, a lot of environmental challenges, some of them caused by the transport and others caused by the industry. But all in all, we are having our own set of problems, and my job in Brussels is to show everybody that there are regions like Bratislava which have similar problems to each other and which need to be heard.
Thank you, Mr. Droba. You have mentioned it as among the challenges, of course, also the environmental challenges. And in that regard, our group has been always advocating for a just transition. Our own president, Marco Marsilio, has been the rapporteur of an opinion that was adopted last October by the Committee of the Region plenary sessions. And we have seen the consequences of a legislation, environmental legislation based more on ideologies rather than common sense. And especially we have seen the consequences on the automotive sector, which has been hugely impacted by the new legislation and is still currently undergoing a very difficult crisis. Your region is home of one of the most important automotive production centers. So my question is, how are you coping with this crisis and what are the solutions?
Bratislava region is a part and a member of the Automotive Regions Alliance. It's a fairly powerful organization of regions which host the largest European and global producers of automobiles. I thank our President Marsilio for having this opinion because he knows exactly what he's talking about. And coming from ECR, I'm also quite skeptical about the automotive sections of the Green Deal. I don't think they are realistic. Sometimes I have a feeling like we in the European Union are flying on some unrealistic clouds and are hoping that the good things will happen. But I think the outcomes will be only as good as we produce them. So I'm asking for a little more common sense and a little more reason in introducing all the green and blue policies, because not all of them are working to the benefit of the European citizens. We have our largest employer in the region is German car manufacturer Volkswagen VW. As you know, the company is facing a global crisis at the moment, and we have to be really careful on how to approach this, because this could cause, first of all, an unemployment, and also, secondly, quite a major economic downturn in Bratislava. So we are trying to look at the industry as such, and we are trying to be smart about how we regulate ourselves in Europe. I think the competition is behind the door, and if we don't do smart policies, we will be overrun by producers of cars from other regions, namely China.
Thank you, Mr. Droba. Very interesting. We'd like to end this interview by having some thoughts and on indeed this what you mentioned, a greener economy, and you mentioned already the green measures and the repercussions that could have on livelihoods and jobs. So my question is, what's at stake if we don't change routes, and what are the alternatives to these greener economy measures?
I was representing the ECR also at the climate conference COP in Azerbaijan earlier last year, and I think our position is very clear that of course we as a planet need, and maybe it's 5 minutes to 12. We really started late, and we need to take such measures which will protect the planet to our future generations as well. At the same time, we have to do it in a smart way, and we have to be careful about trying to find universal solutions to the local problems. Every region, every major city has their own set of problems. Some of them are caused by the history of some type of dirty industry in their city. Some of them have problems with winds. For example, what we are doing in Bratislava is struggling with the water retention measures. We are struggling also with the high level of automotive caused pollution. And there are different challenges for every region. So what I'm asking the European Union when we are doing the, first of all, the cohesion policy, but also the rules according to which we can use the money from Brussels, to leave us a little more flexibility to really decide what is good for us. And of course, it needs to fall under certain level and scheme of rules set out by the Commission. But I will be always a strong advocate for flexibility that lets us implement the most desired and the most useful solutions for us.
Thank you, Mr. President Droba. Your insights were very interesting to hear. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to all our viewers, our followers, to have followed this episode of the ECR Local Talks. We will see each other very soon.